When it comes to color theory, I think we've all learned the basics, right? Our primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And when we mix red and yellow, we get orange. And when we mix yellow and blue, we get green. And when we mix red and green, we get purple. Oh, wait, that's not what you were expecting me to say, was it? Today, we are going to mix green, and yes, we're going to make purple. Let's get started, and I'll show you how it's done. For our mix today, we're going to be using this green and this red. And you might be thinking to yourself, but if I mix red and green, I'm going to get a brown. Well, the secret is that today we are mixing Cobalt Green Deep and Rose Madder from the Mission Gold series. And those are PB36 and PR176. Now, PB36 is a pigment blue, so a blue pigment, number 36, but they call it Cobalt Green Deep. So maybe this is a little bit of an April Fool's, and we're not actually mixing green. The color sure does have a green look to it, and or should I say the hue has a green look to it. And the PR176 pigment red, they're calling it Rose Madder, has kind of a red pink, so a much cooler red. And we're going to mix these together today, and I'm going to show you how we mix them and how that creates a lovely purple that you might want to use as you start to paint your spring flowers and maybe summer flowers and, well, in the coming painting season. I hope that channel members had fun with this one this week. Every week before the Monday mix, I always post to the Discord server on Sunday, guess the mix. And I share a picture of the week's mix, and they have to try to guess the color and pigment that we're using. And well, let's just say I've been stumping them a bit, although we did have one that was guessed. But it's been fun. We're enjoying it. So if that's something that you'd like to join us in every week, on Sunday we play for 24 hours until the video drops, and you have to try to guess the mix. Do you think you can do it? Well, by becoming a super fan, click join below the video, and just by becoming a super fan, you'll have access to the Discord and all the fun things that we like to do over there. So I hope you might consider joining us for next week's mix. We're mixing the Cobalt Green Deep and Rose Madder. This mix is going to be primarily the Cobalt Green Deep to get that nice deep purple that you see here. Now, we can range so many different cooler purples to warmer purples depending on where we land as far as how much of our Cobalt Green Deep is in the mix and how much of our Rose Madder is in the mix. But to start with, and this is my Mission Gold Pure Pigment set. I do have a couple extra colors. If you missed that video, I'll pop a link right up here so that you can maybe check that out, because this one, and this one are actually not in the set. This is the one that I added, the Cobalt Black, which is a Mission Gold single pigment color. Okay, so here we have I love the way these re-wet. I absolutely love it. They are drying down very nice. This one is still soft because I just added that one recently. But the rest of these that I poured, it's been well over a week now, they've dried down quite well. I'm really pleased with the way that they have dried, and they re-wet so easy. Okay, so we have our Cobalt Green Deep, and now we're going to want to mix in some of the Rose Madder, which is PR176. I take this, and I'm just getting a little bit of that out of my brush because you see here, I don't have very much of that just in the very tip of my brush, and I'm using my 14 long round Princeton Velvet Touch brush. And just to kind of show you, like, there's not a lot there, but we're going to mix that in. And I'm going to need a little bit more. This is a very cool blue. We turned this to. We're going to need a little bit more red. Get the excess water off on my sponge there. And I don't want to add too much red too fast. I want to go slow because the red will quickly, and I'm just going to take some of that out right there. The red you see quickly takes over, and right now I have something that is very magenta. Okay, and I'll just show you. Right now we are much closer to the red side. And yes, we could go stronger. So I'm going to need a little bit more of my cobalt green deep. And I have quite a bit on the brush there. And I'm not worried about mixing up too much of this color because I think I will use it. There we go. There's that purple I was looking for right there. And there is that nice deep purple. When we have more of our cobalt green deep than our rose madder, like this purple. And this is really interesting, like in a wet wash, because the cobalt green deep definitely granulates. And so when we mix this up, I'm gonna bring a little bit more of that red in there. This starts to separate on my palette like really easily. Let me just show you. This is the one I mixed up earlier. See how much the red has separated? And then like over here, I have more of the cobalt green that has settled down. So I'm going to do this. Just get that out of there. No, I'm going to wet a spot on my paper first. And we're going to go with a wetter wash of our mixture here. Mixing this up. And let's just drop it in. Just get that nice wet wash. And I'm going to let that just kind of do its thing. And we'll show you what happens with this nice wet wash. I'm just going to let that set. But you can absolutely go from a nice deep dark purple to a much warmer like magenta. But yes, you can mix purple with green when that green is made with PB36. I'm going to let this dry real quick and let's take a look at this when it is finished. I hope you're enjoying this series on mixing pigments, and if you are, please take a moment and hit that like button. Give this video a thumbs up, it definitely helps. And if you'd like to see more, consider subscribing. I let this dry naturally on its own, and it's still slightly damp, but you see we have this nice deep purple that we get when we mix the cobalt green deep PB36 and rose madder PR176. Again, the pigments I'm using today are the ones in the Mission Gold. Mine was in the single pigment set. When we mix it in a wetter wash, we get this beautiful separation of colors that happens. And the cobalt green deep PB36 is, as you can see here, it is a granulating color. And it is gorgeous. This is looking slightly greener than it actually looks in real life. Well, at least on my monitor while I'm recording. So this is any turquoise, teal-like colors are very hard for cameras to actually capture them accurately. But we can go all the way to more of like that magenta, showing more of the red in the mix. And I just think this is gorgeous. Now, as you see here, this was my mix from earlier, and I glazed over a second time to get that nice deep dark purple value there. And again, I did a swatch and I did two layers here to get that nice deep dark purple. But you saw we did it in just the one layer there. Those are pretty darn close from my first mix here. This was my first mix before I started recording. And then this one was the one we just did. And look at how the colors even separate on the palette. I love watching my palette morph and see what the colors do as they kind of sit there in the separation. I love it. Now that separation, when we do a lighter wash, that's a lot more water. These are ones I did earlier. You can see here, it ranges from everything from like this granulating pinkish color, and you can just see that cobalt green deep just kind of setting in there. And here I just kept adding more of the cobalt green deep to my mixture because I wasn't sure exactly how much cobalt green deep I was going to need to get the purple that I wanted. And of course, I ended up going with much more cobalt green deep PB36 and just a little bit of PR176 to get this mix that I actually wanted. Sorry, it is so windy out there. And between the wind and me shaking, I'm sorry for the camera wobble. Now this, if we don't like that granulation, you're just going to want to apply your paint wet on dry. And wet on dry, you don't get as much separation, as much granulation showing up. So if you're not a fan of granulation, just be sure, like you saw here, we went wet and wet, and we got this. But when I went wet on dry, there's much less of that happening. It's able to separate because it has more water to kind of move and float around in. So if you kind of restrict that, you can help control that granulation to an extent. So I hope that helps. And please drop me a comment and let me know, what do you think about mixing purple from green? Was it an April Fool's joke? I don't know. They call it cobalt green deep, so they call it green, but the pigment is PB, pigment blue 36. So I was still mixing a red and a blue to get purple, but as we know, manufacturers can name their colors anything that they want to. And so definitely we went with the play on, they're calling it cobalt green. And yeah, that is very common. And so we mixed purple with green. Technically, yes. Technically. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment. I hope you will tune in again next week for our next mix. I will see you again here on Monday. And, in the meantime, maybe consider becoming a super fan. Drop on into the Discord and play Guess the Mix with us next week. I do hope you will join us. Until next time, my friends, keep creating. I'm going to pop another video up right here that you might like to watch next. And until next time, bye, guys.